In 41 AD, Claudius was elected Emperor of Rome. His decision to invade Britain saw the deployment of an army of 50,000 men in the summer of the year 43 AD. A two-day battle raged by the River Medway, southeast of London, culminating in a British retreat. The Romans rashly pursued the enemy into the marshes, where many soldiers drowned. Consequently, the Romans encamped in Southwark, present-day South London, to safeguard their gains. The construction of a military bridge in this area by the Romans initiated the birth of the city of London.
This initial city did not last long, being burnt to the ground in 60 AD by the queen of the Iceni, Boudicca. After the attack by the rebelling Celtic tribe, London was rebuilt into a prosperous new city by the Romans. Between 190 and 225, the Romans built a circuit of defensive walls around the city, which clearly defined its borders. Like other walls of other important Roman cities, it stood as a symbol of the city's power, prestige, and wealth. London continued to develop as Britain's capital until the 5th century, when the Roman Empire collapsed and the city was abruptly abandoned.
An Anglo-Saxon settlement known as Londonii developed to the west of London. By 680 AD, London had been reoccupied and revived sufficiently to become a major port, but the walls weren't maintained. However, increasing Viking attacks from the 9th century caused the city to experience a decline in population and economic importance. In 886, Alfred the Great re-established Saxon control of London and renewed its defences. By the 10th century, the walls were strengthened to the extent that Viking assaults were successfully repulsed. From the 12th century onwards, the City of London remained England's largest city and flourished as a centre of economic activity.
The year 1666 witnessed the Great Fire of London. Only 6 deaths were recorded, but this figure is deemed inaccurate since the deaths of the middle and lower classes were not documented. Most buildings within the wall were destroyed, but the wall itself was largely unscathed as well as the areas outside it. Following the fire, the city was rebuilt extensively and the gates of the wall were repaired, despite the fact that the city had expanded well beyond the wall by then. Almost a century later, in 1760, the wall gates were removed due to traffic congestion and the resulting stone was sold to the City of London Corporation.
During the Tudor times, the London Wall was still valued as an inner line of defence, and its perimeters still determined the boundaries of the city. Monarchs ensured that the city gates were constantly watched and that the wall was mounted with artillery in case of uprisings like that of the Northern Earls in 1569. This rebellion caused a wave of rebuilding whereby gates and portcullises were repaired. These activities continued as late as 1642. Population pressure during the late Tudor period and the Stuart period meant that the city began to expand outside its walls. A map of London by Wenceslas Holler in 1675 shows the ditch surrounding London Wall to no longer be in existence, and in its place, houses, yards and gardens are depicted. Defensive importance also changed, as many of the gates now functioned as police barriers or, in the case of Aldersgate, for occupation as living quarters.
Work to demolish the walls continued into the 19th century, and large sections of the wall were incorporated into other structures. During the Blitz, 1941 to 1942, major sections of the wall and the buildings surrounding it were heavily bombed. But when archaeologists dug through the ruins, they discovered that some stretches of the original Roman wall still stood. The wall today has a rather ghostly presence. Most Londoners are completely oblivious that they live within what had once been a walled city and that sections of the wall still stand today. Major conservation work takes place to protect the remaining sections of the wall, and although some parts of the wall are within private property, others can be visited by the public.